Good evening, dear sisters and brothers. Welcome to the evening session of Being Heartful Every Day with Swadhyaya. Today is day 90, and we gently continue exploring this week's powerful theme, which is judgment and prejudice. This week, we are learning to observe how easily judgment can arise, how quietly prejudice hides beneath the surface, and how courageously we can soften these inner patterns through awareness. Have you noticed how quickly the mind labels? This is right, this is wrong, this person's always does that, that person never listens. These are judgments, not necessarily because they are untrue, but because they are fixed. They close the door on further discovery. They freeze a moment or a person in the time. Prejudice takes a step further. It tells us a story before even asking a question. It draws on old impressions, some scars, projecting past experiences onto present situations. It creates fear, separation, and rigidity. In life, this becomes a great hurdle. If we wish to grow, we must remain fluid. If we wish to be guided by the heart, we must allow space for fresh insight. The moment we decide that someone or something cannot change, we become blind to the movement of grace. As Babuji Maharaj reminds us, prejudice is the deadliest poison to spiritual life. It destroys openness, narrows our inner vision, and feeds the ego's delusion of superiority. But here is the blessing: judgment and prejudice are not permanent, they are habits. And like all habits, they can be transformed. Integrating Swadhyaya into our daily routine. This timeless guidance becomes especially powerful in the week's exploration. Swadhyaya is our inner compass. It does not accuse or defend, it simply reflects. Like a calm lake, it shows us what is there without distortion. When we bring our judgments into the light of Swadhyaya, we begin to see them not as truths, but as protective strategies. Many of them were learned in childhood or born out of fear, hurt, or confusion. Seeing this, we can begin to forgive ourselves and choose differently. And as always, we encourage, please do share the invitation of Heartfulness masterclasses and Being Heartful everyday sessions with your friends and family so that they can also take benefits of such sessions. Dear sisters and brothers, we are now going to return back to our this week's reading, which is from User's Guide to Living Part 7 by beloved Taji. Our success here leads for success there. Yes, it doesn't end there. There is a great truth about worldly life that many of us don't grasp. We mistakenly believe that our life in this world is transient, hence not important. But that could not be further from the truth. Whatever we do here also determines our destiny and success instantly through the results of our actions may not always be seen now, but in some distant future. What is meant by that? In Babuji's words, this world is in fact a reflection of the other world. When this one is molded properly, its effect extends onto the other world whose reflection it is, and that too will begin to be purified. This world is a projection of the astral or cosmic world, the Brahmand Mandal. where everything happens in astral form before it manifests here. There are several such higher regions, each more subtle than the other. When we refine our worldly existence on earth, the effect is carried to each of the higher regions, all the way to the highest. We are multi-dimensional beings, and what we do in this layer affects all other layers. This life is a precious opportunity for us to change all levels of our being. When we act in alignment with these universal principles, it transforms all the dimensions of our being. This is yogic science, universal brotherhood in action. Now imagine that a single act of compassion welling up from the bottom of our hearts has the power to transform all levels of our being. Principle 6 states, know all people as thy brethren and treat them as such. So we can look at this principle as having two aspects, knowing and doing. The first aspect is knowing. Know all people as thy brethren. Knowing is a realization that comes from a state of being and creates a perpetual shift that helps us make the choice between separation and unity. Knowing removes ignorance and resistance and brings enlightenment, clarity, and purity. It acts as a bridge between being and doing. The second aspect is doing and treat them as such. Once you know from the depths of your being that we are all brethren, then how will you treat others? Knowing is the embodiment of being. Doing is the embodiment of knowing. I repeat, knowing is the embodiment of being. Doing is the embodiment of knowing. The third aspect, being, is something we often miss out. The tastes of buffet dinner, like children storming at a counter to be fed. Taste and forget should not become our tragic culture. That is why the practice of AEIOU is so important. It allows us to savor the experience and let it be imbibed and enlivened within us so that we become one with it. What about the fourth aspect, non being? Let us not venture into this philosophically, but prepare ourselves for the true encounter and merger in that state. Embodying universal brotherhood. What does it mean to embody universal brotherhood in our lives? Before I address that question, I would like to clarify the confusion and common misunderstandings associated with this principle. Embodying universal brotherhood does not mean that we go out about hugging everybody in the street. It does not mean that we agree with everything that others say and avoid confrontation at any cost. It does not mean we are always trying to please others and appease them. It does not mean that we believe everything we hear. It does not mean that we force ourselves to stay in an abusive relationship. It does not mean that we allow ourselves to be intimidated, taken advantage of, and manipulated. Dear sisters and brothers, we will now put a rest to the reading. Let the silence deepen now and allow the words of this sections to dissolve and leave only their fragrance within our heart. We will now together offer the universal prayer. All brothers and sisters, are being filled with love and devotion, and real faith is growing stronger in them. सभी भाई बहन प्रेम और भक्ति से भर रहे हैं और उनमें सच्ची श्रद्धा दृढ़ होती जा रही है। May the sacred current of this prayer dissolve the veils of prejudice and awaken the love in the hearts of all. And as you prepare to take rest tonight, take out a few minutes for quiet introspection, inner reflections, and your bedtime prayer. You may want to introspect. Did I hold someone in a fixed story today? Did I allow myself the grace to change? Or did I judge my own feelings? Is there one perception I'm willing to see differently tomorrow? And you may write your reflections in your diary because these observations gently purify the heart like a gentle breeze clearing the morning sky. Dear sisters and brothers, thank you for joining the evening session today. And we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow for the morning session at 6 a.m. Thank you again and wishing you all a very good night.